السلام عليكم شباب، شكرا ان شاء الله طيبين. قبل عدة ساعات يوتيوبر شهير جاك فراكز نشر فيديو فحبيت اشاركه وياكم، ولازم تشوفوه اذا كنت محب للسلسلة. طبعا تفاصيل خرافية، اولا هي ممتعة للعب، ثانيا هي مفيدة للعب. تمام، فتفاصيل لا انا اتوقعها ولا انت، فلازم تشوفها للاخير. طبعا من ضمن التفاصيل هي السنايبر والار بي جي، بالاضافة الى المميزات الخاصة بالسبيشال الشخصيات. تمام، باقي التفاصيل هي تكون ممتعة، تفاصيل خرافية تتميز بها لعبة باتلفيلد عن اي العاب ثانية، ودائما هذه هي تسويه بكل جزء. طبعا بالنسبة لي انا طلبت اللعبة ستاندرد، فبعد يوم او يومين ان شاء الله اجربها وراح اشوفها بنفسي هذه التفاصيل واجرب اللعبة. هي بشكل عام صح بها مشاكل لكن حلوة، نفس فانجارد بها ايضا هواي مشاكل، فإن شاء الله يحلوها بتحديث قادم. فيب ما أدري أطول عليكم، أترككم مع المقطع.
Although it's kind of a secret at the moment, it won't be for much longer. Battlefield 2042 has Levolution moments. For example, a radio tower on top of a building here on the Kaleidoscope map has the potential to topple and take out enemy vehicles and players along the way in spectacular fashion. So how do you do it then? Well, it's connected via 4 cables that are cemented into the ground. If you use explosives on all 4 of them, they will snap and send the tower crashing downwards. Pretty cool. You could always just bash into it a few times with a condor or a helicopter too. That seems to work as well. Now there are a load of other crazy details in this game that I thought we'd take a look at today. And a big thanks to Nvidia for sponsoring this one. We're playing and recording in 4K with ultra settings using Nvidia Reflex and DLSS for lower latency and great visual quality. This is as good as the game can look. More on that later in the video. Another awesome Levolution event can be found on the map Discarded. Both sides of the container ship have a section that can be pulled down, and it's supported by 2 winches on either side. If you quickly interact with both winches one after the other, they will malfunction and pull down a large section of the boat, instantly destroying anything underneath it, including tough vehicles like tanks. This does have a more practical use too though. It will expose the ship and open up new flanking routes inside, so if you need to capture the flags on top, try this to explore a new tactical opportunity. If you're having trouble hitting vehicles far away from you with the M5 rocket launcher, the scope of the weapon has accurate mil dots and reference marks to line up your shots perfectly. What I like to do is quickly ping my target and find out how far away they are from me. In this example here, the enemy vehicle is 100 meters away, so I use the top and center line to aim there where it says 1 for a successful hit. Moving further away though to 200 meters, we use the second line with the 2 next to it to arc the rocket in. That's a good hit. And then a more extreme example here, 400 meters away from the target, aiming higher to account for the drop and lining the target up on the 4th line for 400 meters. As you can see, it hits first time. This detail will help you to improve your accuracy and destruction, hopefully, of enemy vehicles. While we're on this topic too, it's interesting to note that bullets can travel extreme distances in this game. Here we can see a target 2,000 meters away on the biggest map, Breakaway. And with a well-placed shot, it is possible to take out enemies with a 1-bullet headshot this far away from you. The engine will simulate the bullet going that far. When you're running around on the battlefield, you may not have noticed how helicopters interact with the world. Usually they don't come this close to the ground unless I'm flying them and crash. But the air movement created by the blades actually affects foliage and trees that are nearby. It's directional too and dependent on the position of the chopper. There's some nice physics happening here. They'll also kick up dirt on the ground too, changing the lighting and visibility in that area. You can take out the smaller bushes and trees too, if you ever fancy a bit of light gardening and horticulture. Explosions and tank shots can have an impact on light physics objects too. Notice how when this tank fires its main cannon, the blast affects everything around it, including small clumps of grass. Your character leaves an impact here as well. When running around on natural surfaces like snow and mud, you will leave footprints behind you. Other players nearby will do the same too, so you could be followed. Stay alert. If you wanted to make a bigger impact than that though, drive around in a heavy vehicle. Tanks in particular will leave huge tracks behind them, again visible by other players. I like to draw things in the sand sometimes, always completely innocent, I promise, and the tracks are surprisingly detailed though if you jump out to take a look at them close up. It's very impressive. Animals are no stranger to Battlefield games, from rats to birds in the sky and sharks in the ocean. However, there are a couple of new additions in BF2042. On the renewal map, there's a room full of red butterflies, which I assume are engaging in their own battlefield of cross-pollination. Penguins too, including some adorable chicks. They're just so fluffy. There's a snake on the Hourglass map here. You can find this guy roaming around the level on the far out sand dunes. It even has a custom animation and sound effects. I asked on Twitter what kind of snake this was, and the most popular response was a black desert cobra. I looked it up. Looks similar. Could be that one. Back on the breakaway map, we can find several blue whale skeletons on the beaches. I've done a bit of research on this, and apparently it's a common sight in the Antarctic. And this is because of the harsh weather conditions here. Animal remains and skeletons are often washed ashore by glacial changes and are well preserved because of the environment. Interesting detail, it could also be a callback to the whale that was found swimming around on the Battlefield 5 map, Narvik. Breakaway, because of its location, is covered in mounds of ice and snow. If you pay attention to certain ice shelves and structures, you will occasionally see bits of material melting from them and falling to the ground. Looking down into the ice, we can distinguish the different layers of it and the cracks inside of it, giving a real sense of depth. You'll also hear the strange sounds of the ice cracking and shifting underneath the surface. This is not a made-up sound effect either, and it happens in real life on frozen lakes and large bodies of ice. Another cool sound effect is how the breathing of your character is tied to their movement speed. For example, if you sprint, your character will breathe heavier and practice different breathing techniques as they go. After stopping, they will exhale heavily as they recover. Listen up. That short burst of speed there, well, that's more exercise than I've done in real life in the last 2 years. Up next, a couple of cool details that we've noticed with the specialists. You can take out enemies with McKay's grapple hook, just hit them in the head with it. That one looked pretty painful. Irish's armor shield can stop vehicles like hovercrafts dead in their tracks, exposing them for some easy explosive damage. Tanks also ramp straight over them from the front, enough so to the extent that you can stand right in front of it and not be run over by it. Could save your life in a pickle. Also, we messed around a bit with Dozer's shield and discovered that there is no projectile currently in the game that can penetrate it. Tank shells don't work. Rockets from helicopters, nope. It can withstand them all. Grenades will also bounce off it too, and once they hit the shield, they can be reflected in different directions and turned against the person that used them. It also reflects bullets too, meaning that you can use bullets fired at you to kill other players that are moving towards you, or angle it differently to take out someone else. You can also bounce bullets from shield to shield. Think of the possibilities. Pretty crazy. Rao is quite an interesting specialist too that's often overlooked. He can hack almost anything in the game. If you hack enemy players and kill them, they will release a pulse that will show you any enemies hiding nearby behind cover in the near vicinity. They'll be highlighted here in red. More importantly though, he can hack vehicles including helicopters. If you manage to do this, the helicopter will not be able to use weapons or release countermeasures such as flares, essentially giving you a free kill on them with a couple of anti-air stinger shots. Nice little detail for the user interface here. If you want to quickly figure out what fire mode your weapon has selected, you can use the information on the crosshair in the middle of your screen to figure it out. It's quite simple. A normal 4-part crosshair means that you're in full auto. A 3-part crosshair with the top removed is single fire, and a 4-part crosshair with broken lines or dashes is burst fire. Nice and easy to remember. The tornado that can turn up during one of your matches is a very impressive visual effect, especially at 4K Ultra. It's full of debris, lightning strikes, and it will pick players and most vehicles up and throw them if they're in its path. It has different visual effects too at the bottom for whatever surface it's currently travelling on. For example, when on the ground, it will pick up a load of dirt, but when on water, you will see it collecting and disturbing water in its path. You can actually fly above the tornado too for some contrasting serene scenes. Take a jet, fly directly upwards, and you can burst through the dark clouds and find blue skies and sun. Get away from the battlefield for a bit maybe, bit of peace and quiet before flying back down into the chaos. Whilst we're in a jet, the F-35E has a great detail. It has VTOL capabilities, and that means that it has traditional runway takeoff and flight or vertical takeoff and landing. Go into first person mode and look at the heads up display in front of you. Switching flight modes is reflected accurately on the controls on the console. Going here from normal flight to VTOL mode and then back again, you can see how it changes. That's something most people might never notice, but it is there. The Wildcat here is a monstrous armoured vehicle. It's great against infantry and vehicles, especially helicopters, but the main cannon has got a cool little effect. If you fire it, you can see the shell casings being ejected out of the side here, and they are little physics objects that interact with the world around you. Of course they will despawn over time, but many of you may not have noticed that. What you may have noticed though was the heat distortion there coming from the engine. Finally, the C5 explosive has a simple display on it, and every time that you press the detonate button, it will show you a message. You can deplete all of your explosives and keep pressing the button though to cycle through the random messages. There's all sorts here, and it makes me wonder if there's a super rare one that no one has found yet. And that's it for now. There are loads more details in this game that we haven't mentioned or are yet to be discovered, and if I see any really awesome ones, I'll be sure to make a new video like this one. Do let me know though if you found any others in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like to help support me.